you define breath work? What is it?
Like you're saying, it's actually the foundation of everything. So the minute your staff are mentally, emotionally, physically well, they are optimized.
I'm curious about what your experience has been with people when it comes to some of the biggest misconceptions about breath work. What has your experience been in that regard?
Is stuff that's actually inside the human body. You don't need any chemicals or plant medicine or anything. You've got it. You've got it inside your physical body. And that was the first thing that blew my mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Learning How to Live. The last time you heard me, but you did not see me. So this time I thought, let me actually be on camera so that you know who's the person behind the voice. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm not alone, I'm with Cindy, right? And for this episode, we're chatting breathing. So we're looking at it from a physical, from a mental and emotional and spiritual point of view. But before we get into that, how are you, Cindy?
I'm good. Thank you so much for, again, allowing for this space.
100%.
And, yeah, exciting for Hive-Mind and voiceovers to grow together. I think it's a beautiful platform to connect to our community. And I think that's the thing that excites me every time is the idea that we have community members listening in
Definitely.
and ready to receive this information. So
Yeah.
I'm well and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
100%. I did a talk at Unilever on, I think it was Monday. So I was chatting to the staff about the bigger picture. And I realized that there's a lot that we actually take for granted. One of those things being breathing, right? And so it's really, really interesting that we get to talk about this thing that not so many people pay attention to, and this thing that actually makes such a difference in our lives at the end of the day. That said, I think we can get into it. And I think my first question to you is, how do you define breath work? What is it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So I think to start the story right at the beginning, when we go back, say, a couple of thousands of years before modern civilization, breath practices used to be a way of life. So if you look at the ancient yogis or, people who lived, the monks in the mountains, those
Right.
kinds of lifestyles, it was part of their daily practice. And somewhere along the line between ancient civilizations and modern revolution, we lost the ancient wisdom of breath work. And it was almost like people started to think that life is all about just making money and surviving instead of being a body, mind, and soul individual. And I think that's sort of the differentiation. Do you just live to survive or do you want to thrive? And the moment that question comes in, I want to live my best life, and that's, of course, our program as well, learning how to live, you have to step out of your comfort zone. And very basic thing, first step, is how do you actually breathe? So just for a moment, if we can practice it quickly, just check in with yourself. How deep does your breathing go? So just doing a normal breath, can you feel it? Do you feel your chest rising? Or do you feel your belly rising? And so we can go deeper into that today, and I'll share some tips. But for most people, it's a shallow breath.
It's shallow breath,
And you only breathe into maybe even half of the capacity of your lungs. And I think that's where breathwork practices comes in. The moment people are conscious and they choose thriving over surviving, then we step into, okay, let's teach you how to breathe properly.
It's very interesting. Do you breathe every day when you wake up? Is it something that you intentionally do?
So two of the things that I'm going to share with you today is my favorites that I practice. Of course, if I have time, then we can go into deeper ones. Sometimes I'll put aside maybe a day a month where I'll do a 20-minute to a half an hour to an hour proper breath work, DMT release session with myself, which I will discuss more. But on general, day to day, there's two of my favorites that I would love to share. So I don't know if you want to go into questions first, or do we start with?
Yeah. Look, I wanted to get into techniques, but I think we'll get into that later on. I want to talk about conscious breathing and how that actually impacts the body and how it impacts the mind and the spirit as well.
Yes.
Because I think there's such a deep pool to actually dive into, but I don't think we're curious enough, about breathing and so many things. So that's what I want to actually dive into. Conscious breathing, how does it impact our mental state? How does it impact our emotional state, our physical state? Yeah.
Yes. So I think whether you are a housewife or whether you are the CEO of a business, breathing properly can benefit you. From the state of, if we're struggling with high performance, so that's why I used both categories. A mom might struggle because she's not getting enough sleep. A CEO might be under so much pressure and he's got so many deadlines. So again, also maybe not getting enough sleep. So
Yes.
the first thing that breath offers you as a gift is to bring in more oxygen into the body. So obviously, as we breathe deeper, the fog that we sometimes experience in the brain can then dissolve. So it's almost like you untap this reservoir of creativity. And the moment the mind opens up, I always tell people, if you want to use a visualization, it's almost like plugging into the source of life. So we talk about life force energy. And again, this is different religions and beliefs and cultures use this different talk. So we can think of vitality or life force energy or prana or the energy of God, whatever you want to call it, spirit. But there is an energy field that surrounds us. And when we are conscious of that and we start to tap into that, we become the best versions of ourselves because it fuels us, it fills us up. So imagine for a moment, if you are breathing and you visualize it's almost like a straw coming through the crown of the head, and you are absorbing all of that beautiful, delicious prana energy or life force energy, and it fills you up. Imagine what happens to your mind. All of a sudden, that spiral of negativity you might find yourself in with all the stress of the day or problems that you might be sitting with, it's almost like you break free from that because now you are tapping into something beyond your own mind. The same with the energy flow in the body then, because you are breathing properly and deeply, all of a sudden it shifts that energy flow into the entire body.
Yeah.
So oxygen flowing, blood circulation, your lymphatics, nervous system relaxes. So on an anatomy and physiology perspective, the health benefits are endless. So just to be conscious of the minute I start to breathe deeply, what happens to my physiology? And then the first thing is clarity of mind. The second thing, as we go deeper into the body, is almost feeling like your energy field is expanding. So a lot of times when we are weighed down by problems, you might find that you're sitting like this behind your computer, right? Or people are driving, or you're constantly slouching because you're literally feeling the pressures of life. But the minute we start to breathe, it activates the heart, it activates the lungs. So automatically the spine is more erect, the heart opens up, the lungs open up, and you feel like you are more of yourself. You feel like you are stronger, your energy is flowing freely. And that's the aim that we want to get to be the best version of yourself. And then on a deeper cellular level, cell regeneration starts to happen quicker. So for people sitting with chronic illnesses or aches and pains in the body, the deeper you breathe and almost actually visualizing that you are breathing into that space. So for example, waking up with tension in your shoulder, right? You might have had a night behind the computer, editing late night, and then you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh my goodness, like this, the way I use my mouse, this often happens to me. And by simply going into that conscious breath and breathing into that space, you are literally sending more oxygen, more white blood cells into that space. Immediately, pain lessens. So it's almost like a natural painkiller that happens in the body. And immediately, because the body is flooded with serotonin and oxytocin, the happy hormones, you're feeling like, okay, I can take on this day. So again, like I said, the list is endless, but there's so many beautiful benefits of breathing deeply.
I'm loving it. When I looked at your email, you spoke about how it reduces depression.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people suffer from that. I was having a conversation with my niece the other day, and she's so young, but some of the things that she was telling me really did break my heart. So for people who are maybe suffering from depression, what is the relationship between that and breathing? And how can breathing actually better their situation and, I don't know, maybe get them to feel better? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's a beautiful question, and I think so valid, because if we think about not just depression, so for me, when I look at the physiology of the body as a therapist, we start with the kidneys. On top of the kidneys, we have our adrenal glands, and obviously, when we're living a fast-paced life, you're pumping a lot of adrenaline, right?
Right.
So the happy hormone production in the body almost slows down. It's like it's suppressed by the overload of the adrenaline, the cortisol in the body. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, because sometimes it can be a good thing to get you going and give you a push. But if it's a constant state of being, then things like burnout, anxiety, those types of things are triggered, because the nervous system feels like it's under attack.
Wow.
So literally the body, if it's constantly feeling like it's under attack, we immediately go into shallow breathing. So the link between burnout, anxiety, depression is linked to our breath, because the minute we breathe deeper, immediately, remember last time I mentioned, just underneath the rib cage, we have our diaphragm.
Yeah.
So when we do diaphragm breathing, we connect to the headquarters of the nervous system. And so I always demonstrate it like, if you think of the headquarters of the nervous system is like a little octopus, right?
Okay.
If it's relaxed, you can see the head of the octopus and all the little tentacles or the arms going down. This is what a healthy nervous system should look like. The minute we go into stress, it contracts. And people say, oh, I feel like I have a knot in my stomach.
Right.
You literally have a knot in your stomach. Your entire nervous system has contracted. So by doing a diaphragmatic breath exercise, you're pushing beyond that. So you're pushing onto that space of the nervous system to say, I'm sending a message that my body is safe, that I'm relaxed, and then that is immediately sent through into our hormone release into the body. So again, the happy hormones, the serotonin, the oxytocin. And so for someone who is struggling with depression or chronic anxiety or burnout, a daily practice of really deep diaphragmatic breath or belly breathing or balloon breath that I will be demonstrating for you is necessary, because you need to constantly reaffirm to the nervous system that I'm okay, I'm safe. And once the nervous system relaxes, the body then starts to produce natural and healthy, happy hormones. So yes, when people are chronically stressed, it results in deep layers of depression. And obviously, the longer we leave it, the deeper we get sucked into that spiral of feeling completely depleted and almost like you are feeling like you've got nothing more to give, like you are completely empty. And yeah, so breath work, definitely the best medicine to start.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm wondering, I'm curious about what your experience has been with people when it comes to some of the biggest misconceptions about breath work. What has your experience been in that regard?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey for me this year to speak to a lot of corporates. And I think our vision, Hive-Mind's vision for this year, is to bring alternative wellness into corporate spaces, because the message that I'm getting is anytime people hear about holistic wellness or alternative wellness, there's this thing of it's a bit weird, it's a bit woo-woo. Like, what are you actually talking about? And they almost feel like there's no science backing it, and people in the logic mind space want proof, they want results, they want something that's tried and tested, and to shift into almost proving to them that alternative wellness has got science that backs it up. We have got proof that we can actually measure to see what happens in the brain, what happens in the lungs, what happens with the nervous system, blood circulation, blood pressure, for example, blood sugar levels. All of those things are affected in the body in a positive way when we breathe positively and deeply and in the right way. So almost trying to figure out a way of like, how do we shift this conversation to it's not out there. It's not airy-fairy. It's actually something that's been tried, it's been tested, and it really has incredible results. So I think maybe the conversation would be for people to have sessions where they practice it and see for themselves how it impacts their bodies. And maybe with the techniques that we share today, it would be amazing for people to maybe send us some feedback for the following session to say they tried it, this is what they're actually experiencing in the body. And I think to almost move away from oftentimes when people think of holistic medicine, especially when we rather later go into things like plant medicine or natural remedies, there's a sense of people are afraid of losing control. And the beauty of losing control is the illusion was we never had control. So we think in our human minds that we live in this world where we've perfectly constructed our day and what our lives are going to pan out to be, but ultimately there is a bigger force or a higher force that guides and drives everything. So the moment we surrender, and that we can do beautifully through breath, then we allow for new inspiration to come through. So again, if you're sitting with a problem and you're stuck in, this is my process, and someone comes in and says, can I help you? And immediately this thing goes, no, this is my project. I don't want to let go of control. You might not even know that this person was actually sent on your path with a solution that's even better than the one that you're currently working on. And that is the process of breath. It almost allows for the mind to be more open, more malleable, more flexible. And to live in a space of going with the flow is the best way to surrender.
Yeah.
And I think it's that fear thing of people are resistant to let go, but breath can take you there. And I mean, I don't know if you want to go into ancient practices of what people can experience when they do go there, but we can maybe touch on it a little bit.
Definitely. I think let's actually get into it.
So there's different types of breathing. So the first step would be just becoming conscious and aware of your breath, right? And we'll have short little exercises that I can share with you. The second part of it is using breath as a therapy or as a deep healing modality. Then we go into things like either deep healing, so if there's physical illness in the body or mental or emotional illness, how we can physically heal that with a specific breath practice. And then when we look at the spiritual side of things, so we said body, mind, and soul.
Right.
So for people who want to deepen their connection to the creator or source, or whatever their belief is, the universe, whatever their belief is, you can go there with breath work. Because what happens is we have a beautiful gland in the brain. So it's right here between your eyes. And it's actually called the pineal gland. So it's part of our hormone production system. And it is believed that in ancient times, before people had lots of screens in front of their faces, that gland was completely open, almost like an antenna to pick up connection to God or Spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever your connection is. And when you go into a space of deep prayer or almost like meditation or a space of really being quiet and listening for inspiration or answers, when you have a breath practice that goes along with that, it's almost like it unlocks this layer or this block. And inside the pineal gland, we actually have crystals, real life crystals. So when there's specific breath work rhythms that happens in the body, those crystals start to vibrate. The same with singing. So singing specific notes starts to vibrate that. When people do specific mantras that they chant, some of the ancient yogis or Buddhist practice, they will chant because they realize the vibration that happens in the brain or in that gland specifically starts to radiate a specific frequency. So when we are in spaces of fear or doubt or negativity or depression, we vibrate on a very low energy. So this is again talking about quantum physics, right? When you measure the frequency of something. The minute we go into a higher elevated consciousness, it's pure unconditional love. And of course, when you are vibrating on a space of pure love, you're completely open.
Right.
So in that moment, you then connect to the highest version of unconditional love, which is prime creator, God, source, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, for me, our journey as human beings should be to evolve from being unaware to first looking at physical and emotional wellness, and then eventually transcending into higher states of consciousness. And breath work can meet you in each of those phases of your evolution as a human.
So I think what I'm getting from you is, especially from a spiritual point of view, that there could be heightened intuition, creativity because of breathing.
Exactly.
It blows my mind.
Yes. And if you think about things like tribes like the Bushmen, right?
Yeah.
They are 22,000 years old on this planet. And so way before modern civilization and technology, they had access to this wisdom. And they would actually, by dancing around the fire with rhythmic breathing and specific sounds that they would make, go into a trance-like state.
Yeah.
Without any drugs, no plant medicine, no nothing, because they understand that a specific vibration will activate that pineal gland, which then takes them into almost like a hallucinating state, like a trance-like state. And in that state, they would say sometimes they would see visions of, higher beings. Obviously, back then, they didn't quite know or be able to express in words, but now we understand it is an elevated state of consciousness. So the realm of angels and maybe people saying, I had an experience where they see Jesus or,
Right.
Something that they see, or an ascended master or whatever it is that they are seeing. It is when we are in an elevated state of consciousness, a vibrational match to that realm, which is unconditional love. When you are a vibrational match, you are open to receive that. So people who are clairvoyant, or they get prophetic messages, or they are in that elevated state of conscious awareness. So we can all get there. It's not just a gift for people with selected powers or, gifts. Every single human has it built in within us. The moment we overcome the physical things that weigh us down, the illnesses, the mental blocks, the emotional blocks, we can transcend into a higher space of consciousness.
That's beautiful. What is the difference between oxygenation and holotropic breath?
Holotropic breath.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so grateful you asked that, because again, it is that differentiation between just being energized.
Okay.
So if you want to get ready for your day, we're going to do some oxygenation, and that we can practice today. Holotropic, however, it's like a cycle, like a rhythmic breath. And so in Native America or the South American regions, the shaman would actually make use of that in their healing ceremonies, where they would take people into this rhythmic breathing, and it's almost like a forced breath where the breathing is quite fast. So you are almost hyperventilating on purpose. And you are flooding the body with so much oxygen that the person can either pass out or they can go into a state of hallucination. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that is to surpass the ego mind, because we have so many stories running in our minds, right? And things that are obviously also sometimes holding us back from being our best version. And sometimes we reach almost like a plateau, or like the roof of our growth, and we're like, how do I expand beyond this version of myself? I know there's more. Mm-hmm. I feel it intuitively that there is more. That's when we invite things like cycle breath or holotropic breath, and really pushing yourself beyond that level of comfort. Mm-hmm. And what happens in the body, sometimes the body can go into a bit of spasm, or you can feel aches and pains. But if you continue for 20 minutes to half an hour or longer, an hour, sometimes they do it for 3 hours, you break through. It's almost like a shell that was around the body energetically, that breaks open, and pains and aches are relieved. People who are struggling with really severe illnesses have seen remarkable results after that. So again, just depending on how deep do you want to go, how far do you want to expand yourself as a human, and just leaving that question open to see what comes up for each listener, I think is interesting.
I'm interested to find out, especially in corporate, in the workplace, do you think companies should have a chief of mental wealth or health officer? Because we have all these officers. We have a COO, a CEO, a CFO, but we never tap into the health and wellness of employees. Do you think that's something that we should start looking into?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is also, that's been my focus for the last 6 months, is to put together almost like small offerings for corporates to tap into. First of all, to introduce them into this world because it is still very new for them.
Right.
I know that there are quite large corporations. Some of the banks have got, an HR. They try and bring in some health and wellness, but it's always, and this is just my impression, it always feels like it's like a nice to have or an extra that people can choose if they want to or not. But it hasn't become part of the culture
100%.
of
It's not
that
integrated, yeah.
enterprise. And like you're saying, it's actually the foundation of everything. So the minute your staff are mentally, emotionally, physically well, they are optimized. So they are going to reach higher heights. Your corporation will be able to benefit from this. So for me, it's almost like logic next step. Like, why are people not doing this? Because in that moment, they will be getting the best out of their staff. And then obviously for management, if you want to be on top of your game, like cutting edge, finding new solutions, you should be applying these things into your personal health and wellness regime every single day. So I think that would be amazing if humanity can evolve into having a department specifically for that and making sure that the mental, physical wellness of the staff comes first. And then from that space, bring in everything else. And I think it will just bring more flow and more growth, really. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. What's been your, I guess, maybe call it your most amazing experience in this journey that you're on right now?
So I think specifically relating to breath work, I myself went through a divorce 3 years ago. And I went on to this whole new, I had to recreate myself, right? And the very first thing I did was I enrolled into a course that's about personal development. And one of the basic things that they spoke of was breath work. And our teacher at the time spoke about DMT release. So DMT, again, those hormones are actually when people use chemical drugs like LSD or, like they want to go on a trip to escape life.
Mushrooms and stuff.
Is stuff that's actually inside the human body. You don't need any chemicals or plant medicine or anything. You've got it. You've got it inside your physical body. And that was the first thing that blew my mind. She spoke about DMT and how it's stored in the brain and how you can release it. I was like, oh my word. And then she took it even further and she took us into an experience. And for the first time, it literally felt like my physical heart broke open. And of course, all the grief and the pain that I was feeling at that time felt like it was dissolved, like light was flooding into my body. The second thing was my body was rushed and filled with so much energy that I felt like if they could plug me into a wall, I would be like a light bulb.
Right.
That's the amount of energy that was physically flowing through my body. And a couple of days after that, I could still feel the effects of that DMT practice. It was clarity of mind, that the sadness, the grief, the depression I was going through at the time was completely dissolved. And in that moment, I decided this is going to become a part of my life. And as a result of that, obviously, I started to open myself up to more avenues of alternative and holistic wellness. But I think if people can grasp how powerful deep breathing and proper breath techniques are, and how it can shift you from feeling like you've got no options to feeling like you are on top of the world, really without any medication. No plant medicine, no chemicals, no chronic prescribed medication, nothing.
No enhancers, yeah.
No enhancers. You've got it built inside of you. I mean, how amazing is the creation of the human being?
That's
that
amazing.
We have all of this inside of us already.
Yeah.
So that was quite a big one for me, I must say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of techniques, can we get into some of them?
Yes, I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
Purely because the others require for people to go into a really deep trance-like state to feel the effects of it. So these two focus more on oxygenating the body.
Okay.
And so I would say if you can do, the first one is the belly breath or the balloon breath, which I'll explain. If you can do that one beginning of the day and last thing just before you go to sleep. And then the second one is square breathing or block breathing. So literally breathing in a square. That one can be used throughout the day. So you're sitting in traffic, or you have to just go into a meeting, or you're just coming out of a stressful meeting. So those two are really great to use throughout your day. So first one, you can practice it with
Okay,
me.
cool.
So just relaxing shoulders. You can maybe place your hands on your lap. And so visualizing that inside your belly you have a balloon, right?
Okay.
So for most people, we just do a shallow breath. It's just like lungs rising a little bit,
Right.
like up and down. With this practice specifically, you almost want to feel like you don't want to move your lungs and you only want to move your belly.
Okay.
So with the in-breath, belly's going to rise. So you're going to push out. So feel if you can do that. Push your belly out as far as you can, and almost like your balloon is to its fullest capacity, right? And if you can hold it. So we start with maybe 5 counts, and then you breathe out, and you contract the belly as far as you possibly can. So a nice flat belly, as flat as you possibly can. And then with every round of this belly breath, as you breathe in and the balloon rises or the belly rises, you try and see if you can hold it for even longer. So 5 counts, 6 counts, 7, 10, 20. And obviously, as your lung capacity strengthens, the diaphragm strengthens, you will be able to hold it for much longer.
Yeah.
So the benefits of that, so we can do 3 quick rounds now and just practice, but immediately nervous system relaxes.
It relaxes me so much. It feels like I'm on a high
Yes.
of some sort.
Yes, exactly. So let's do 3 deep breaths.
Okay,
so
cool.
we're just going to breathe in. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly release. And again, belly rise, breathing in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. And last breath in, belly rise. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. And just before you open your eyes, just be aware of your state of mind. Can you feel the busyness dissolving and the body relaxing? And the softening in the belly as the nervous system relaxes.
Feels pretty amazing.
Great. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and I'll show you the next one. Yeah, so it's so amazing, and I always encourage people when they come to see me is also get into the habit of scanning your body.
Yeah.
So before you do your balloon breath or your belly breath in the morning or last thing at night, just visualize as if you have a scanner and you're scanning from the top of the head down the body, and you can feel where the tension is or where the aches and pains are. So now, after the belly breath, scan again and see what the difference is. And that's proof in itself. Immediately feeling the difference in the body,
Right.
before the breath and after. And so the second one, as I mentioned, is the square breathing or the block breathing. Very simple, and I mean, this is also a fun one. Both actually I teach to children in school settings as well, because sometimes they get stressed before a test or an exam. This is beautiful practice to bring in just to calm the nerves and for the mind to be clear. So the square breathing, you're just going to imagine a square in front of you. And so with the in-breath, first side, we're going to breathe in 4 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4. At the top of the square, you're going to hold the breath for 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Other side, breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bottom of the square, hold, 2, 3, 4. So in essence, what we are doing is we are creating a square where the inhale is for 4. We hold the breath at the top. So when the lungs are full, we hold the breath for 4. We exhale. Now the lungs are empty.
Right.
So we hold in a space of the empty lungs. So we are forcing the rhythm of the heart and the lungs and everything to slow down on purpose so that we can have clarity of mind, so that we can calm down, we can have control over our emotions.
Yeah.
So that's also a beautiful one, like I said, to do throughout the day. If you can just, while you're sitting in traffic, you don't have to close your eyes, just visualize your square. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And that can become a daily thing. Just before a meeting, quickly, just to center yourself, do a square. If you just come out of something stressful, do a square. And the long-term effect is you are retraining the nervous system that it doesn't have to remain in fight or flight the whole time. That you go into a space of pumping adrenaline, getting the job done, coming back to center. We constantly want to come back to center. And that's the gift of proper breathing or deep breathing.
Right. That's wonderful. For somebody like me, I have a couple of years ago, I was playing soccer with some friends, and my kneecap shifted, right? But I don't think I went, because I was young, I don't think I went to the doctor to actually get it checked out. And I think as I grew older, I started experiencing pain with my knee, etc. Started cycling just to get it stronger. But for somebody who has, like me, a knee injury, right, and they're trying to heal from it, how can I incorporate breathing to sort of like aid in my healing?
So in that case, I would definitely recommend the holotropic breath. And there's so much information on YouTube and on the internet.
Yeah.
And beautiful guided meditations that people can follow. Obviously, it would be better to do it with a professional practitioner. But if you don't have access to it, or you are in extreme pain, you can always just go to YouTube, find a video, and there's also stuff that I can share with the community. But deeper than that, and maybe that is a topic that we can cover in another episode, is there's many layers to sport injuries. And specifically when it comes to muscles or tendons in the body, we have to look at how's the liver and the gallbladder doing.
Okay.
So oftentimes the diet at that time might not have been great. I know for some sport players that always go for a beer at the end of the game, you know, not a great link for muscle recovery. So that can be discussed in another podcast, but specifically for the breath, if we stick to something that we almost push the body into rapid healing, which is over-oxygenating the body with a holotropic, that's required. Because, and again, this is also a medical phenomenon, if you want to call it that, and this is where I feel miracles happen, is the minute we allow the logic mind to go quiet, and we surrender into that beautiful life force energy that I spoke of to do the healing for us. Because the body has been designed, the body is like the most advanced computer. It has got exactly what you need to heal you from any illness, actually. And I know this is a bit of a gray area to say it, but really we have got the tools built in to heal ourselves. So even a sport injury that's 10, 15 years old can be healed. Through the right practices, right diet, all of those things. So it's a holistic overview, but it can be healed. So yes, I can definitely send some practices on, and you can try it and then share with our listeners what the results has been for you.
Yeah. I recently got introduced into, what do you call this, stretching. I never used to stretch, right? Yeah. But you know, when you meet a woman who's all about fitness and all of that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So she introduced me to breathing, to stretching, and it's changed my life.
Amazing.
And I think I'm really interested in, also maybe we can do this in another episode, where we look at stretching and breathing and the relationship again. 10 seconds. The relationship between breathing and stretching, because oftentimes I look at instructors, I hear what they say, and they always say breathe, 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 breathe. And I think it would be very interesting to explore that relationship, between stretching and breathing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of it is, for me, is that you almost go into a space where, again, we shut down the mind. And we allow for the physical body to take over and do exactly what it was supposed to do, what it was designed for, right? And deep breathing, yes, we know that it oxygenizes the body and there's beautiful flow of circulation and all of those things. But the biggest thing is if we can go into a space of surrender and trusting that my body has the ability to self-heal. And that is where we need to get as a civilization, is to go into that space of remembrance that I am more than what I think I am. And a lot of it is with regards to programming and how we've been influenced by media and this feeling of not being good enough or not feeling worthy enough. But we are sovereign and divine beings. And we've been created by the most beautiful source of life, unconditional love. And when we can come back to that truth of knowing who we really are, that's when the transformation that we've been craving starts to happen in our lives.
That's beautiful.
And so, yes, breath, stretching, all of it moves the energy in the body, brings you back to your center, brings you present into the moment. That's the biggest thing. Because when we live in the past, nothing we can do about the past, right? It's gone.
100%.
Future is really not for us. It's unpredicted. You know, we don't really have a guarantee that that is the future outcome we are going to get. So all we have is right now, this present moment. So when you breathe, when you stretch, when you do yoga, whatever it is, it brings you into the present moment. And that is the gift.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Cindy, thank you. That's the end of our chat. I can't believe it's been close to 60 minutes.
Wow. Crazy.
You and I have been chatting. But yeah, anything else you want to say to the audience?
No, I'm just
There's
so
your
grateful.
camera there.
I'm so grateful, guys. Keep practicing your self-love practices and keep listening to your own heart and your own intuition. It won't lead you astray. And we look forward to connecting again next time.
100%. Listen, thank you for watching. Right. Remember to like, subscribe. What do they say again? Share. Yes, share with your world. Because I think these are very important conversations that we're having. And until next time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.